Hi guys, Dave here from DDR Customs. Today we're going to look at putting a back wheel into the middle of a hardtail frame. Going to give you some idea on how to do it so we get it dead centre. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll go and have a look, and let's get straight on with it. Right, now we're going to start on the putting the wheel in the frame. Now first of all, of course, we've got to make sure that the wheel is in the middle of the frame. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we need to know the distance across the wheel itself. So the easiest way of measuring that is using your axle. Slide your axle in with just the nut on the end all the way through. So now the nut is on the bearing. We're then going to get the marker pen, mark the end of the bearing. So now when I pull that out, we've now got a distance that we can measure from the nut to the mark on the bearing. In this case, I know that this is around 6 inches. If I tape measure, just have a quick check. So this is 6 1/4. So 6 1/4 inches. So now I know what this width is. So then what I need to do now is measure the width of the frame. Okay, so now I need to know the width of the frame, and we always measure the inside, not the outside. And in my case, it's 11 1/4 inches. So now we know the width of the frame and the size of the rear wheel hub. So now we can work out the centre of the bike. So with our two measurements, we now know that the frame is 11 1/4 and the axle is 6 1/2. So take one from the other, leaves us 4 3/4. So we divide that again, gives us our measurement for our spacers. Now I've actually already made my spacers because of I wanted to get on a bit further, and it's a bit boring watching me cut steel up. So I now have my spacers at the correct width. Of course, at the back end, on the disc side, I'm going to have to fit the Sportster caliper. As opposed to having a custom caliper, we're going to use the original Sportster one, which means I'm going to make a bracket on the frame itself, but we'll get that done once the wheel's in the middle. So now we know all of that, with the spacers the correct size, our wheel now must be in the centre of our frame. Okay, now we've done all that, let's get the hardware onto the rim. I've already done with a lot of measuring, done my measurements, and because this is a 160 wheel that's going in a frame designed for a lot bigger tyre, we're going to have to use quite a few spacers. So on our side, on this side, we're going to put the disc. Now I have measured, and I know that I need a 30mm spacer to push the disc further over to where it needs to be. So here's my 30mm spacer. And then we're going to put the disc on there, and I'm just using some temporary bolts for now. And here's our disc, or rotor, depending on where you come from. So I'm just going to get that. Of course, and I've also measured that the caliper, the spacers coming this way are the correct distance to allow for when the caliper's centered on the disc, the flange on the caliper is the correct distance to keep it all flat and level. So that's the disc on. Just nip that up with a quick nip up with a spanner. These eventually will get changed for button heads on an Allen key. Just for now we're using these. Don't put decent stainless steel nuts and bolts on anything until you're doing your final build. So that's that side, and then on the sit still. On the other side, I know that you're doing some measurements, that I need a 15mm spacer on this side for the belt drive. Trying to line up 5 holes at once, or 10 holes with the taking the spacer into account. Let's have another one. Just to show you, so that doesn't always go right the first time, so better. Now we're a bit more lined up. Centre. Oh, wrong group. To make sure we're in the right angle. That's it. It is important to make sure that the wheel is in the middle of the frame at this stage, because the last thing you want is problems later on. Right, so I thought that was right. Oh, no. Oh, no. Now I've found the right socket. Always helps if you've got the right socket. Just do it up. Again, we're not snugging anything up yet because it's all going to have to come off again later on in the build. So that's it now. We've got the pulley on, rotor on. So what we're going to do now is get it back in the frame. So we're just going to adjust the camera and we'll get on with getting the wheel in. Okay, so I've got all my bits now. So we're going to get everything together. So washer, axle. That's coming from this side. My 2¼ inch spacer for this side. My group of spacers for the other side. And of course the brake caliper. Sometimes on these you can, if you need a bit, you can mill this face down here a little bit to give you a bit more space. So let's get it in. Oh, better put the belt in, otherwise we're going to have trouble later, aren't we? Right. Stick that on there like that for a minute. Right. So axle in first. With a 2¼ 1/4 inch spacer on this end. And just lifting the wheel helps push it through. So that one's in there. This is where you wish you had 15 pairs of hands. So that's in there. I've then got a small spacer and then the caliper. Like I say, this is where you want 15 pairs of hands. Give me a bit more room. And now the last one. This one's the worst spacer, so we're just going to use a bit of a bar to ease the frame. Stand up a bit. Nearly. Need a bit of a persuading stick. Always the last spacer gives you the bit of trouble. That's it. So that's basically in now. So let me just get the, I'll just change camera angle and you can have a look at the back end for what we got. Okay, so what we've got now is the wheels in. Here's the 2 1/4 spacer this side. Look on this side, we've got our spacers in there and we're all ready for the nut to go on. And a quick look at the caliper. As you can see, the caliper I've now got to make a mounting for to slide in the slot, which is my next job. But as it is now, that wheel has to be perfectly in the middle of that frame. And you see about one thing I also didn't say is obviously a wheel has a set rotation. When you're moving things around, to make sure you don't forget, I always mark the rotation on the tyre where it's quite visible. So that's that bit for now. We'll come back and have a look at doing the bracket. When I come back to that, I will start with the filming on the bracket.